Hello everyone, Season of the Drifter is coming to a close and I wanted to take some time today to discuss it. I didn't get around to doing this for Black Armory, but I think I talk about Black Armory in this video, so that's good. I don't think any of this feedback is going to be too surprising to most people though. Was this season a success? That depends on who you ask and how you ask it. I think Bungie absolutely achieved their goals in creating a season that revolves around the Drifter and Gambit, specifically Gambit Prime. Gambit Prime was a nice spin on normal Gambit, though not perfect, and the gameplay loop between Gambit Prime and Reckoning fed into each other as well as they possibly could. We got some backstory to the Drifter that we'll hopefully see resolved going into the future, given that it seems like the Drifter and the Nine seem to be part of a much larger picture compared to someone like 801 and the Black Armory, whose storyline feels wrapped up. We got a nice looking set of weapons as well, along with some ornaments to match, even if they are from the Eververse store, and Bungie's first real dance with armor set perks worked out alright. Again, not perfect, but it's a start. So, looking purely at the content that was added to the game, I'd say Bungie achieved that goal with regards to the scope of what they're able to achieve and create within the annual pass model. But if we're talking about success in terms of player interest in that content, that's where we're going to falter a bit. Season of the Forge was PvE focused in a very general sense. Scourge of the Past was a solid raid, the Forges weren't really that difficult, could be match made into, and were a pretty short experience, taking less than 10 minutes to complete one. I'd put them into the Strike category of just being able to stomp through them pretty casually, not requiring laser focus to complete, something you just kind of do for fun. Niobe Labs, up until levels 6 and 7, was one of the best puzzle-driven experiences we've ever had in Destiny, even if the rewards weren't substantial. The core of Season of the Drifter is Gambit Prime, and that's it. So if you don't enjoy Gambit Prime, you're immediately out. There isn't a more general activity for you to go do. If you don't play Gambit, then you're not getting the currency for Reckoning. You're not getting the gear in Reckoning to then use it in Gambit Prime. You definitely don't care about the title of Reckoner either. Essentially, take Season of the Forge and take out the Forges. That's what you're basically left with if you don't like Gambit Prime. And for many people, that laser focus into one very specific game mode killed their interest. Only the people who are willing to play Gambit or enjoy Gambit really got a lot out of this season. Gambit Prime itself, I think, is mostly fine, but for me, power ammo and armament mods ruined the Gambit experience as a whole. I'm going to wrap back to my State of Gambit video that I did a while back. Here were the main issues I had. Difficult to carry games because teammates are unpredictable, lack of shift in the meta, power ammo and the one-sided nature of invasions, and being able to shred bosses. The changes in Gambit Prime versus regular Gambit really emphasize the roles a lot more. I've had games where 4 random players really played well and made games tough to win or absolutely crushed me, and I've had games where 4 random players got absolutely crushed as hard as possible. So carrying games is still kind of a toss-up, but it was always going to be. Being able to shred bosses is still very much a thing, and a meta shift didn't really happen on a substantial level either. The main issue for me continues to be power ammo and its influence on the game, mainly invasions. 95% of invasions are Hammerhead. Not only Hammerhead, but what appears to be an endless supply of Hammerhead ammo. But if you invade with something that isn't Hammerhead, you are likely to get Hammerheaded from multiple angles. If you are not straight up abusing taken or fallen armaments, you might as well not even play sometimes. Machine guns are just so ridiculous right now for every facet of Gambit, and eventually fatigue wears in when you're killed by one for the upteenth time. The thing is, it doesn't really seem like Bungie thinks power ammo is a problem whatsoever based on a live stream that happened a little while back, so I don't anticipate this changing, at least not for the short term. This is probably not an issue to everyone who plays Gambit, but as someone who's been playing a lot of it recently, I find it really tiring that every invasion is a matter of who gets to cross-map snipe someone with Hammerhead first. Power ammo will be the reason I don't play Gambit after I get the Reckoner title, unless something changes. Reckoning did not serve the game in the same way that Forges did with regards to being able to farm weapons. Weapons dropped very rarely, then you needed the correct weapon to drop, then you needed to hope it was the right roll. I'm not exactly a fan of being able to just get everything you want on the first day or the first week, but the way this worked for the duration of the season was just not great. On a more personal level, I was done with Reckoning pretty quickly after release. After the first few clears, I got the gist of it, and it wasn't really engaging to me anymore. But it's different compared to Forges because you still need to stay focused to some degree in the activity, or you're going to have to start over. If I knew the rewards at the end were going to be worth my time, or if I knew I could just mess around and have a good time doing it, then perhaps interest would have stuck. But I have enough well-rolled weapons to not be bothered to want to get insanely lucky on a good spare rations roll. I also don't really care about the rolls on my Gambit armor because I'm just looking for the set bonus so I can work on the title. The only reason I bother with Reckoning is simply because I'm chasing the Reckoner title, and I have to engage with it in order to do everything that I need to do. If I didn't have to engage with it, I wouldn't, which is exactly what I did this season up until I decided that I wanted the title. Now, there were some things splashed in the season as well. Thorn and Invitations of the Nine were pretty linked to the Drifter experience. Outbreak Perfected was technically also sorta linked, but only vaguely. Outbreak Perfected feels like it could have come out whenever, and I'd feel better about judging it independently. We also had some events splashed in the season, the Revelry, Arc Week, but these don't really feel thematically linked to Season of the Drifter. They just felt like their own things that happened to also happen during the season. The Revelry because it's the spring, and Arc Week because, you know, just Arc Week. I have thoughts on the Revelry uploaded already, but I never spoke about Arc Week because I was in Japan at that time. I think the issue with Arc Week was that while it was a good sandbox update for Arc subclasses, it could have been better as a surprise as opposed to a listed feature on the Drifter timeline. Essentially, all of this boils down to, it was too focused on Gambit. Reckoning could have been utilized a bit more if it was a little more liberal with its drops, where it could have acted like a pseudo-Forge-like activity, or if it wasn't so aggressively tied to Gambit Prime and you can get some other value out of it. Its limited focused purpose was not ideal for mass appeal compared to Forges, which are Strike-esque in terms of difficulty and ease of entry. As for Season of Opulence, I have much higher hopes, especially now that Bungie has released some information on what'll be going on and the timeline. I'm sure we'll get some more information on the season the same day I upload this video. Opulence's main gameplay loop seems like it'll revolve around the Menagerie, which is the new 6-man match-made activity. You'll have something called the Chalice of Opulence, which you'll upgrade over time to get better rewards, and you'll be able to use the chalice to create offerings to exchange for specific weapons and armor that you want. Essentially, it sounds like a refined or altered Forge-like system. Whether or not the fatigue of same but different but still same will wear on people is something we'll discover over the course of the season. The timeline looks pretty good for Season of Opulence, all things considered. There's something new every week for the first 6 weeks of the season, and then as things slow down, Solstice of Heroes comes back at the end of July. And then after that, well, no one really knows what'll be happening, but it seems like we'll be somewhat entertained during the summer. Was the annual pass model a success? After looking at feedback from various sources, I'd say it entirely depended on how you feel about Destiny as an individual. The annual pass provided a really good amount of content over the course of the year, probably the most we've seen in a single year of Destiny. But again, it's down to personal preference if you like the small trickle versus dropping everything at once, if you're a solo player versus having people to play with, yada yada, the list goes on. I don't think there is a right answer. I'd certainly rather have the annual pass as opposed to the year between Taken King and Rise of Iron, for example. While Curse of Osiris and Warmind weren't the most well-received pieces of content we got, Curse of Osiris more than Warmind, there's certainly some merit to new destinations, strikes, PvP maps, and a lot of those Destiny staples. I think that's really the main way the annual pass can improve, bring back or build up some of those core Destiny experiences. I think no new strikes was something that the community missed the most with the annual pass model, and I think beefing up the core of the game again should have a slightly greater focus moving into the future until it's beefed up enough. Strikes, nightfalls, PvP maps, PvP almost in general, it feels like all of these are irrelevant, just fall into the wayside in favor of pushing new activities into the game, building the game wide as opposed to tall. If I had one thing I wanted for Destiny going into the future, it would be for Bungie to make sure those things aren't neglected as much as it felt like they were. It's a tough thing to try to balance brand new things that'll get people interested in the game again versus keeping those core activities feeling fresh or at least relevant, ensuring that they still have some life to them. Bungie swayed very hard in the new experiences category this year, but that's not to say that it was a bad idea though. Again, it really depends on how you enjoy the game. Is the annual pass model sustainable? I have no clue, but if I'm to venture a guess, I'd say probably not without the support of Activision anymore. Destiny's development was shared across a couple of studios at one point, and now we're down to just Bungie. There's still a ton of people working at Bungie, but losing any sort of help is probably going to hurt no matter what. Which means the future of Destiny content may be changing, and we may see less focus on trying to push a bunch of stuff out the door and focus more on building up the core of the game, building tall instead of wide. Although this is literally just a complete guess. Building the core of the game is good, but too much focus on just the core can maybe leave people wanting something new entirely. Again, trying to balance both of those desires is difficult. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys on Season of the Drifter and the intro to Season of Opulence and the annual pass and all that. We'll see how this Season of Opulence goes. I do think it'll be better than Season of the Drifter for sure in terms of mass appeal. That's not to say I don't think Bungie did a good job with Season 6, but rather it just wasn't really everyone's cup of tea. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.